And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live here at Citizen Television. There he is, coming in literally right now, the birthday boy. A little late, but he made it. Oh my God. This is only television. I tell you can't make this stuff up. Sometimes you wait, sometimes they make you wait. Karibu sana, Senator. It's your birthday. We understand. There he is, walking down the hall. All right, Senator. Man. You want to kill me today, huh? You want to kill me today? Sunali. I know you were speeding down the highway, huh? Pole. Karibu.
I live right next to you. So.
Have a seat. Oh, man. Looking good, by the way, looking good. No. You took a nap? Okay. All right. How you doing, man?
Very well.
Let's see if they can hear you upstairs. How you doing, Senator? Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, bro. I appreciate it.
Somebody once gave me this. What does this mean?
It means leadership. It means you're a leader.
Seriously?
Yes.
Thank you, brother. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
How old are you today? Are you allowed to say?
Yes, of course.
Are you on the 5th floor yet?
No, not yet. Got a few years.
How old are you?
46.
Wow.
Turned 46 today.
Well done, brother. Looking good, man. And what is this now? You've decided now you're going to be wearing traditional Maasai attire.
You know what, Jeff? You know, our attitude over the last few years, you know, the way we behave, it makes us make the colonial masters look more like philanthropists. You know, we don't care about our cultures. Our Constitution, Article 11, talks about respecting the cultures, you know, but we seem to forget that. And I have to give a lot of credit to Speaker Lusaka for looking back at the Constitution, looking back at his own speaker's ruling, and saying we must respect cultures.
Why did you decide now? I mean, why since BBI? You weren't doing this since the BBI report was launched?
Corona. You can't get the best suits anymore. You can't travel, man. I mean, you can't travel.
So you're blaming it on Corona now?
So you decide, you know what?
Yeah.
It's about time to look back at your culture. And it's actually important for you to remember your culture. Remember where you come from. You must respect your culture.
Yeah. But by the way, it looks great. It looks fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Is this now your everyday wear?
Everyday wear. Everyday wear.
To work on the farm?
To work on the farm and everything.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay, look, BBI, and you've been very outspoken. You know, when you talk about pastoralists, now you've jumped on the side of pastoralists all of a sudden.
Yes, of course.
Why this stance?
One of the things that made me do that is that when you look at the Constitution Amendment Bill and you look at the shared prosperity, it stops on agriculture. It's as if we pastoralists don't care. You know, the people don't care about pastoralists in this world. They don't care about people in the blue economy, people in the coast, people in the lake region. So that triggered something. And you look back in Session Paper number 10, and you see the way for all those years, even the framers of the Constitution of 2010 thought about the Session Paper number 10. And they thought about coming up with a policy document, or rather the Constitution that will help these communities catch up. That's why they introduced the issue of the Equalization Fund, which has never really been implemented. So we have to look back. We have to assist these communities to be able to catch up with your communities, who are very lucky that all the development followed the railway line. So really, you have to look back and say, you know, the more we are, the stronger we are. So when all pastoralists come together, we become very strong.
So which side of the BBI are you on? Because I get very confused. A few weeks ago, you were very critical of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Very critical. Then you had a meeting with him. Now you seem to be on his side.
No, let's put it this way. I'm always been a supporter of Raila Amolo Odinga. I will always be a supporter of Raila Odinga. I will fight from within to make sure that the pastoralists issues are taken into consideration.
So why were you so critical of him the other day?
No, I wasn't critical of Raila Odinga. You know, people get me wrong. I was critical of the BBI, you know.
Yes.
And you see, we have to remember that where did all this come from? This began at the footsteps of Harambee House when the two gentlemen held their hand and they brought peace into this country. They came up with 9-point agenda, which their issue was to be able to ensure that there is peace in this country, there's prosperity, shared prosperity, there's, we do away with corruption, and we allow communities to be able to treat each other as brothers. But at somewhere along the line in the BBI, I think we deviated from the 9-point agenda, where other people brought in their interest. Because when we went around the country, remember, Jeff, I was arrested and I was detained in police custody because of talking about our issues, land use policies. So at that point, when we now moved away from, you know, Raila allowed us to talk about things that ail us. But then, when we gave our views to the BBI task force, they seem to have ignored them. So I've never been critical about Raila. Never.
But you're not supportive of the BBI in general?
The way the BBI was drafted, from the onset, I was critical about it, okay? And I've just given you a perfect example. And I'll give you 3 good examples, and I'll try to demystify them. For about 3 years, we fought about the revenue formula. And then last 3 months, we were very categorical with Team Kenya. We came up, and lucky enough, all the other senators joined us, and we said we don't want a formula that discriminates against other individuals in this country. But then when you look at the proposed amendment of Article 203 of the Constitution of Kenya, it takes back the gains that we got. And how does it do that? It says, for you to be able to divide revenue, you must not allow a county like Lamu, for instance, which only has 143,000 people, to be able to get more money than people in Kiambu, who are about 2 million people. You cannot compare. You're not comparing apples to apples. Okay? Right. So that was the issue. We gained a lot during the revenue formula, but the BBI was taking that away from us. And we are not amending Article 89. So this argument of one man, 1 vote, 1 shilling is not even there. So the people who took over, I am more convinced that there were some individuals that took over the entire argument, the entire gains that we made, and attempted to bring up their own issues, you know, craft their own ideas in terms of the BBI, and made it a conversation of a few people. It's supposed to be a conversation for the whole country, but not a few individuals.
Okay, there are some critics who say, fine, you support Baba during the daytime, but in the evening, you're supporting Deputy President William Ruto.
That's absolutely ludicrous. The issue is this, and I want us to divorce ourselves from that kind of thinking. I speak my mind. I'm there to represent the people who elected me. And I'm not blind. I follow what I know is right for my people. If I say that when you talk about the government promoting sustainable agriculture and you stop there, I remember what happened during the formula. There are some people who thought when we were drafting the formula, they said, give it a weight of 22% for agriculture. You know, Maasai people don't depend on agriculture. The Somali people don't depend on agriculture. You know, the Samburu people don't depend on agriculture. They depend on livestock. So if you come up with an argument and you say, oh, maybe by arguing about agriculture, you're putting livestock there, be specific. Say agriculture, livestock, and the blue economy. And I would support that. So what we're pushing for is inclusivity. When you talk about shared prosperity, you know, talk about agriculture, talk about what supports me in my economy. So if it comes to speaking my mind is what is defined as supporting Deputy President William Ruto, I mean, that would be so simplistic. Look at what I stand for. I stand for a country that is all united. You know, I want to come to Loresho, I want to come to Kiambu, and I want you to come to Narok. or you go to Mandera, and you feel like you're in a country called Kenya. Okay?
Yeah. With the BBI, more money, like you wanted, was allocated to the counties. A lot more money.
That is so simplistic. Let me tell you this. Let us be, you know, the problem is that I'm a realist, and I live in this country. I know the challenges that we have in collecting revenue. I've sat in the mediation committee on trying to figure out how much money will go into counties, and the fact remains, we still cannot be able to collect enough revenue. Okay? A lot is good on paper, but when it comes to reality, we really don't have that money. Okay? There is a lot. If you look at the Ministry of Health as an example, okay, the budget which is left in Afi House is equivalent to the money which is allocated to 5 or 6 counties, okay, collectively. So people might say it is very simplistic that there'll be more money sent to counties, but show me the money, Jeff. Show me the money. Right now, as we speak, there are so many people, like let's say our staff in Parliament, are still not being able to be paid their salaries. Treasury still does not have that money. So it can be very good on paper, but in reality, it's not there. Yes.
So bottom line, this BBI looks like it will pass. It looks like, I mean, on paper, it looks like it will pass. Now, and there won't be any rallies, public rallies, because of, you know, COVID protocols, health protocols. So it probably will pass through Parliament. And it's going to pass. I mean,
let's put it this way. I definitely would want the BBI to pass, but I want it to be a conversation for 47 million Kenyans. If anyone out there is crying out and saying, my views have been ignored, we should be magnanimous enough to allow their views to be incorporated into the document so that we can have a non-contested referendum. You know, if the pastoralists came out and said there are 3 issues that we care so much about. One, we do not want the amendment to Article 203 because we feel that those will discriminate against us. Narok County, in this particular arrangement of Article 203, actually does gain, you know, because of the argument of the per capita. Is not really, it doesn't really affect us because we've got a population of 1.15 million people. But Lamu County is affected. You know, Isiolo County is heavily affected. Samburu County is affected. You know, I would not feel comfortable when my brothers in Isiolo, when my brothers in Lamu, when my brothers in Mandera, in Wajir, are given less money because of this issue where they say their population is lower than other parts of Kenya. You know, and let's be realistic and be honest. In most cases, people in Wajir, people in Garissa, a lot of them, they do not have IDs, so they cannot be registered to vote. You know, they cannot even be registered as a census. They are seen as if they are people from another country. So there are so many issues that we need to deal with so that we include everybody in the country. Number 2, the issue of livestock. We wanted a livestock authority for the livestock farmers so that we can be able to export most of our wild animals to, the domestic animals to other countries. You know, a country like Somaliland, which is just a small dot in the entire Somali country, export almost 4 million cows or domestic animals a year. That's a lot of money. What do we export? Nothing. With the advent of devolution, we now have more animals in Narok, more animals in Kajiado, more animals in Wajir, more than we had before. Let's talk about the issue of land use policy. When you talk about the game reserve, which we depend on in Narok County, okay, we want to be able to ensure that there is a corridor of about 10 kilometers that protects these wild animals because we gain from them. You know, we don't want you, Jeff, to come and buy land next to Masai Mara Game Reserve and decide to build a small town. You know, because, or you put up an electric fence, because it will affect the flow of the animals. We also do not want a situation where you decide that if a governor is so corrupt, you give that county less money.
But didn't someone build a lodge on the other side, on the bank of the Mara River? Did we see someone building a lodge there?
No, you see what happened then was that, let's be very, very honest on this issue. What happened is that every single year, it depends on the flow of the Mara River. the wildlife migrating from Transmara or from the other side of the Serengeti into the Masai Mara normally cross the Mara River. In previous years, the Mara River, the way the tide was flowing, there are parts which the river is so high, or the tide is so high, and the others where it is low. So this particular year, because of the things that we did by protecting the Mao forest, there was more rainfall. So the wildlife, or rather the, what do you call them, the wildebeest, ended up crossing at a different path.
Which is where that lodge was?
Where the lodge was. But that lodge was there for over 10 years. You know, it was wrong that the lodge was there in the first place. And I think those are some of the things that we need to discuss. Yeah. But this particular year, it was just by chance.
Okay, coming back to your exports, I thought we exported camel or camel meat or goats. Don't we export those?
No, we don't. Listen, we killed the Kenya Meat Commission.
But now it's run by the military?
It is now run by the military. But I would want to see a situation whereby each county has its own small, meat commission, so that they can be able to help the country or each county develop. Those are some of the things that we need to discuss. But let's go back to the issue with the BBI. The key, most important, and this is why I would want Kenyans to look at, let Kenyans concentrate on 25 pages, which is a constitutional amendment bill. Let them look at that issue. Because we talk so much about wanting to achieve the two-thirds gender rule. But are we really achieving the two-thirds gender rule when we take women, 47 women, from the National Assembly, where they have a kitty of about 70 million each year, and we bring them to the Senate, which has already been watered down, and we don't give them any money to be able to help the communities? There's no way. It is like taking 5 shillings from your left pocket and then putting it into the right hand, or the right side of your pocket. Will you be solving the two-thirds gender rule? No. In fact, in this process of the BBI, and this is why I keep on insisting, and I'm happy that Raila Amolo Odinga is keen to see where we are complaining and saying, okay, we'll give room to seeing if there are any editing that needs to be done so that we correct the language to reflect the will of your people. We shall do that.
What about those who say, you know what, this BBI is just for self-interest, it's serving self-interest by expanding the executive? Powerful president, a prime minister, 2 deputy prime ministers, a vice president. You're just appeasing a certain group, a certain class of people. What do you say?
You know what? I mean, it's their way. That's the way they see it. And at first, I actually saw it as if it's just it's just a mathematics of trying to create a position for a particular group of people, and for now, the thing that I care most about is that, one, we are included as a pastoralist. That's the most important thing. I would care less about this executive position because I know they would not last. I would care about the 70 seats which are being added. I would want to know the formula which would be used to be able to ensure that these 70 special seats are allocated. We propose that on the 70 seats, ensure that you allocate 1 seat per county. That is 47. But now we hear that the formula will be that after the elections is when each party will give out their own list.
Right.
And based on the number of seats that they would have garnered for the House, that will determine how many seats each political party will get. I still don't support that. But I would care less about that. If I'm considered, if my issues as a pastoralist are considered, I would care about the executive position because those are things which would not last for long. Anyone taking over, after 2 years, they will see it is not working.
What about the legislature being too bloated, the House being too bloated?
One, I really do not support women being brought to the Senate. I don't think we should be blotting the Senate. We should make the Senate much stronger. We should talk about the issue of giving the Senate powers to veto any piece of legislation, to approve any constitutional appointment. That will make the Senate much stronger. But just bringing more women to the Senate, it will not help.
There'll be a lot of women saying that's a very sexist remark, Senator.
I don't believe so. Because when they come to the Senate, right now, the Senate does not even have a penny to oversight. When they're in the National Assembly, they are able to help their communities because they're given a kitty of about 70 million shillings a year. We don't have that in the Senate. You know, the Senate should be there to be able to ensure that it checks and it diffuse this fusion between the National Assembly and the executive. Because if you have women who are in the National Assembly, they can get a chance to become a prime minister. If you have a woman in the Senate, they will never get a chance of becoming a prime minister. Because the way the BBI is drafted at the moment, no woman or no cabinet secretary would come from the Senate, right, but they can come from the National Assembly. So women would gain more by being in the National Assembly rather than being in the Senate because they can get an opportunity to become cabinet ministers. You know, they can get an opportunity of becoming a deputy prime minister. But going to the Senate, they will just be right there. They will not do anything. Yes.
Your relationship, senators and governors, grew a little sour the last few months, especially regarding the revenue allocation. It was very icy between senators and governors, each laying blame on the other for the revenue allocation. Why? I mean, how is the relationship now?
I think the problem was that the governors were not really appreciating the work of senators. But I want to give credit to a few governors who realized the importance of senators. And you can tell that from their sentiments in their last demands a couple of weeks ago. Actually 2 days ago, when they were saying that the Senate should be made as an upper house. The governors who had gained so much money realized that the work that we did was important for them because they ended up gaining more money with a proposed promise of about how much, 50 billion being added to the 316 billion. Yeah. So really, I don't blame them. I just think that they were greedy. They just wanted to get money so that they can be able to deliver services to their people. So when you are desperate, you will say whatever you want to say for you to be able to get to where you want to go. But as we speak right now, governors do appreciate the work that we did, particularly the governors from the 18 counties that were losing money. They saw the importance of the Senate. In fact, most of them are now saying the Senate must be made to be an upper house.
You can't run for Senate again. What are you going to do next time?
Why? Why not? Why not?
You're going to still run for Senate?
Absolutely. Why not?
Why not governor?
If I choose, to be honest with you, I would want...
Your governor can't run again?
But there are so many other Kenyans. You know, there's so many other Kenyans in Narok who may want to run as governor. You know, but for me, I feel like I can do a better job being in the Senate because I can protect devolution more. Yes. But if I choose to run for governor, that's still my own prerogative. But at the moment as we speak, right, I'm still a senator. I want to focus as a senator, do my job as a senator. When it comes to 2022, I can run my campaign.
Tunai might want to run for senator.
That's his prerogative. He's welcome to.
All right.
I mean, we are in a democracy. You know, you have to present yourself to the people, show the people what you did.
Yeah.
If they don't want you, hey, you can go back and take care of your cows. I don't care about that.
Speaking of democracy, in a country where you lived in for many years, and I know it's still dear to your heart.
Very dear.
The U.S.
Very dear.
You're saying if the people don't want you, go home. Trump has refused to go home.
Well, he only has about how many days left?
40, was it 67 or something?
Almost
so January
60
20.
days, January 20. I mean, he might want to be a dictator, but not in America.
But what do you think, Senator? What do you think of what's happening there?
I think it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Is it embarrassing? Is it a shame?
It's a big shame. But it makes us Africans realize that we have brothers elsewhere. You know? Because, I mean, when you think about it, you know, he might want to change the entire military, what do you call it?
The structure.
Structure.
Yes.
And bring in his own loyalists. But the good thing about America, which I strongly believe, and I hope that in Africa we can still get, is we can get strong institutions. Very strong institutions. You saw what happens to Biden. Immediately after he was projected to be the winner, we read so much that the Secret Service ended up making sure that he took over his entire calendar. So I still believe that even though Trump might want to be a dictator, not in America.
But tell me something, Senator. It took 5 days for an announcement to be made. I mean, if that was anywhere else in the world, they'll be saying, demonstrations would be held. They'll be burning the poll stations. But it took America 5 days.
That's democracy. This race was too close to call. I know you haven't slept for a very long time. I know most people still haven't slept.
Yeah.
They're still waiting for Arizona to be called. They're still waiting for Georgia to be called. Yeah. But it was a very different kind of mathematics. People thought that a lot of people will go and vote on voting day, but a lot of people were smarter. They voted earlier. And they sent in their votes through the mail. So it was very, very different. So we still have to make sure that every vote counts.
Yeah.
But as we speak right now, Biden is a winner, and America has a new president-elect.
Is Trump right in holding on, saying, he has several lawsuits, most of which are baseless, but is he right in holding
Absolutely
on?
Not. Absolutely not. He's trying to hold on like any other dictator would. He's actually trying to demonstrate, and he's proving to the world that it's not only in Africa that you can get dictators, but anywhere in the world. By the time of Mussolini, the time of Hitler, all those days are gone.
Yeah.
And I think it's only a matter of time, and all Americans will realize that whatever Trump is trying to hold on to, he's not going to be able to get it.
Senator, let's not forget that Trump had 71 million votes, and they're still being counted. 71 million plus votes as opposed to Biden's 76 million. But this is more than Obama had at his peak.
And then people realized within the last 4 years that probably they had made a big mistake. And a lot of people decided that it was time for them to vote. I saw very old people going to vote. And I think that's the same thing that should happen in this country. In 2022, more people should come out and vote and ensure that their vote counts. Whoever they want as the president, they ensure that that person becomes the man who occupies the house on the hill for at least a period of 5 years.
Let's face it, Senator, if it wasn't for early voting, if it was in America,
yes,
early voting, most critics say Trump would have sailed in on that day.
Well, I mean, Corona is very interesting. Maybe maybe from now on, moving forward, maybe things will be different. People will be, and even in this country, I wish that the BBA would have introduced early voting. Then during the voting day, then people will get surprises, because people are now campaigning. Yeah. I wish that maybe the IEBC would look at the trend, look at Corona. And because today we were told by Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe that there are people who are projecting that this coronavirus will be with us for more than 4 years. So I think IBC ought to be clever, and also for us in Parliament, we need to amend the law to allow people to vote early.
Maybe that's why they're pushing the Huduma number thing. You never know.
I know. Don't talk to me about Huduma. Remember we sat here and I told you?
Yes.
And until now, I never registered for Huduma. I still
You haven't?
believe. No.
Oh, don't worry. There's another round in February.
Well, I don't believe that, because remember I told you that the National Assembly amended the Registration of Persons Act, which was illegal, and decided to do it without consulting with the Senate. And guess what happened? The High Court found that to be illegal. So maybe when they bring it there, we'll stall it. Yeah. I don't really support Huduma number. And I would never. No, I don't.
Do you support a referendum before the election of 2022?
I think if it's a conversation that will be for 47 million people, of course I would support it. Yeah.
You think it's going to happen in the next 12 months?
I think it will happen. So the most important thing now is for us to be able to look at this proposal to amend the Constitution and allow it to be amended. Because I keep on saying, if you can amend the Constitution, why can you not amend a proposal to amend that Constitution? You must amend it. And I'm happy that for us pastoralists, our cry was heard, and we have been given an opportunity to be able to express. So now we are waiting to see whether everything that we shared will be incorporated into the BBA.
Yeah, but some people will be left out, Senator. No doubt about it. Just let's face it, some people will be left out of this cake.
That then will not be the constitutional making. Because if you look at, even in America, as an example. What happened in Philadelphia, it was a process where it was a conversation where everybody came on board. I would like to beseech the two principals to allow other people to be able to come on board. Because remember where we came from. This whole process began at the footsteps of Harambee House, where the two gentlemen shook hands. It was all the issue of the handshake. Now, we don't want to deviate from that process. We don't want this process of making the Constitution to be hijacked by a few individuals. Not the two principals, but a few individuals. Probably the task force, or probably other people who are behind the task force. Because how then would you explain, Jeff? And tell me this, how would you explain one of the task force members coming out and saying, these were not the views of the people? Okay?
Yeah.
So I really think that if the president really cares about this country, he needs to listen to what other people are saying, and they need to come together and say, let's incorporate the views of every other Kenyan.
Yeah, but look, Senator, since ODM went into the same bedroom as Jubilee, there's no opposition left.
No, there is opposition.
Who's the opposition?
And you see, that's the problem, Jeff. Okay? Because when we speak our mind, we are told that we are supporting someone. Okay? We are only trying to check the government. Okay? I insisted that for representation, everyone, either you come from a big community or a small community, you must be represented. I'll give you a very good example. And I shared this with His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga a couple of days when we spent about 4 hours together. And I said to him, the Ilchamus have gone to court. They have got court orders that they should be represented in Parliament. I did not see that in the BBI. And I said, please, make sure that when you live here, even if you live with one thing, ensure that the Ilchamus have got their representation in Parliament. Okay? Because that will be inclusivity. That will be shared prosperity. The thing that they really wanted. And that's what I still push for. So the opposition is still there. It's a bit mild compared to the way it was, because, so long as you're heading somewhere and the head is different, even the body comes, can go in different directions. But I still believe that we have young senators, we have young members of the National Assembly who still believe in playing their role as members of the opposition.
You were at Bomas during the launch, right, of the BBI report.
Yes,
you heard the president alluding to his deputy, saying, "Listen, in the beginning we were all on the same track. It's a 4x100 meter race, and one runner does 100 meters, hands over the baton to the other, and he says, look, this guy, I was going to hand over to him, but it looks like he was running the other way." What do you think of that?
Let me put it this way. I'm a firm believer that we ride together, we die together. If we are bad boys, we are bad boys for life. I don't know what happened between the two. It's up to the two of them to be able to come out and tell us clearly what happened between the two of them. But for me, I believe that that is an issue that none of us can actually come up and clap our hands or condemn. It is upon the two individuals. One of them is about to leave. Governments are temporary. States are permanent. And that's the one thing that Kenyans ought to remember. That when you form government, you will only do so for a maximum of 10 years. You will do so for 5 years, and then if Kenyans are gracious enough to give you another 5 years, then you'll only be in government for 10 years. But you should behave as if you're only in government for 5 years. Do the best for the country so that when you leave, people can remember you for having done something to help that country. But right now, Kenyans are hurting. Kenyans are really hurting. We have a lot of issues. We have a lot of issues that are still not been resolved. We have issues to do with land use policy that have not been resolved. We have got historical injustices that have not been resolved. And that is why I'm insisting and I'm telling Kenyans, if you want change, if you want to participate in this constitution-making process, forget about the policy, forget about the legislations, focus on the 25-page document. which is a constitutional amendment bill.
Up until the president stopped it the other day, I mean, people are still campaigning. Campaigning seems to be our religion or our gospel here.
I'm not campaigning.
No, not you, but
okay.
Why? What is it about us and rallies and campaigns and thinking about the next election rather than the next generation? Why?
Jeff, it's a narrative which is drafted or fueled by the media, by a few individuals. Because if the media did not pay attention to all those rallies, if a rally is happening in Eldoret, there's no way that someone in Mombasa would know. So it has to begin from you, begins from me. There's no problem with if I go to a church, so what? It's just a church service. Let those people who were in that church know that I was there. But what happens? The media runs there with a camera because it's sensational.
But look, in this day and age of social media, Senator, you can't.
That's fine. You put it in social media. But how many people are in social media? How many people are in social media in this country, Jeff?
A small percent.
A small percentage. So let that small percentage, proceed and share and spread it. But the media plays a critical role. I don't believe in campaigning now. I believe that we must listen to what Mutahi Kagwe is saying. Mutahi Kagwe is saying this COVID is real. It is serious. We must begin by respecting the COVID protocols. Because a lot of people are actually dying.
And I'm sure you know this better than I do. There's a lot of denial.
There's a lot of denial. But COVID is real.
And there's people who think it doesn't exist.
No, it does exist. I have relatives who thank God, are now cleared from COVID. You got COVID.
I did.
Maybe I got COVID. I don't know.
You don't know. Correct.
But the thing is, we have to respect the protocols. We have to keep on insisting to Kenyans that you must respect the Ministry of Health protocols. All these social gatherings, big gatherings. Yeah. We are the politicians. We are the ones who keep on having all these big events. What for? Yeah. Because of 2022? I think it's about time that Kenyans move away from politics of big tribes, politics of big crowds, to politics of ideas and ideology. That is what will help this country.
You think we'll get there? Because look,
absolutely,
we have 1,200 dead so far.
I know.
66,000 tested positive.
Yes.
And those numbers are rising.
The numbers are rising. And I'll shock you by telling you, maybe even the deaths are more than the 1,200. There are a lot of people who die who don't get a chance to be tested. The only reason why currently we are seeing a lot of death or being reported, or we're seeing a lot of numbers, is because we have these rapid tests. We can now test more than we used to test before. And don't let anyone lie to you. Even maybe in Tanzania, maybe the deaths are more. Because remember, COVID does not kill you. What kills you are the pre-existing conditions. When you go to a hospital, the hospital stops treating you for COVID, stop treating you for your pre-existing condition, and they start treating you for COVID, which they don't even have a cure for. So you end up dying. So really, we have to divorce the two. One, look at the pre-existing condition. Continue treating patients in the pre-existing condition until you are able to determine whether they have COVID. When they have COVID, if they are symptomatic or symptomatic, then you know how to assist them so that they can go back home and heal.
What's it like with your community? And I'm not just singling you out, but once you leave Nairobi, nobody wears a mask. Very few people wear masks. What's it like in Narok?
That's true. Well, I think, let's put it this way. Narok is not any different. I mean, there's COVID in Narok. Let us be realistic. I know a few people who have died of COVID. There's a lot of community spread currently happening. We just have to reiterate and talk to our Kenyans and talk to our friends and relatives. They have to take care. I'm happy that a lot of people don't shake hands anymore. They still namaste or they just say hi, but you'll still find that in the villages, people will still shake hands. But in most cases, when you go there and you have to shake someone's hand, just remember to clean your hands and
sanitize right away.
Sanitize, yeah.
Okay, look, tomorrow, Thursday the 12th, the President has a State of the Nation address. The one he was supposed to do back in the first quarter of the year, but because of COVID, has been pushed till tomorrow. What would you like to hear, Senator, in tomorrow's State of the Nation address?
Number one, and I hope he does this, I'd want him to talk about the BBI. And I'd want him to talk about the BBI process being a process that includes all the 47 million Kenyans. I would not want to hear him talk about a process where everything is now cast in stone. We will not entertain anyone's views, because that will bring in a lot of divisiveness. I also would like to hear him talk about how he intends to help this economy recover. Let me tell you what is happening. The level of suicide in this country has gone high because of the challenges in COVID. Number two, businesses have suffered. Any business in this country has gone down. So I really would like to hear how he can be able to come up with ideas that can be able to help this country go further. Number two, I think it would be good for him to talk about what Kenyans should expect in 2021 in terms of the referendum. If we are going to have a referendum, let him be honest enough and say we will have a referendum, and this is the calendar of events that will take us there. Number three, I would like to hear the president talk about what this country is doing to be able to reduce the debt, the external debt. I would wish that the president, working with his cabinet secretary in charge of treasury, would come up with a plan to reduce the interest rate in treasury bills, bring them down completely to even 2%, just like what the former president Kibaki did. And that would help, because it would allow Kenyans to borrow, banks to lend to Kenyans, and not just wait to lend to the government. Because when the interest rate in treasury bills is higher, banks would not lend to Kenyans. They would lend that money to the government because they are more secure. But when you lend the money to Kenyans, people will be able to continue doing their businesses, and the economy will actually thrive.
How about jump-starting this economy, because it's been hard hit?
And that's the way. You have to look at what you've been doing, what has not been doing well, and you do it differently. You have to ensure that you force commercial banks to lend to Kenyans. Commercial banks are not lending to Kenyans. Maybe you, Jeff, you've got some connection. You can get money from commercial banks.
Where? Commercial banks are losing, by the way.
They're losing because they're losing. They're losing because the interest rate is so high. If they lower the interest rate, Kenyans would borrow money.
Yeah, but COVID wasn't. Nobody saw it coming, huh?
No,
nobody saw it coming, Senator.
No one.
Let's look at some tweets, shall we? On your birthday,
yes,
shall we?
Definitely.
Oh, let's see. Senators. Okay. Carlo Leparillo. Okay, says, my friend Ledama Olekina has recently changed his hard stand on the BBI report after meeting Raila Odinga recently. He talked about that. Has all issues he was agitating for, like the Il Chamas constituency.
But I just spoke about that.
You just did, yeah. Okay. You just addressed that.
I know.
But what was his reply, by the way?
No, he did. He took it into consideration, and he said he will talk to the Secretariat to see what can happen.
Okay. This is at YBBI. Ask Ledama Olekina if building bridges needs a referendum, helping pastoralists need a referendum, youth grace period of help, women empowerment. This initiative is good, but the referendum part is absurd.
In my view, I think the issue of the youth can be dealt with, the issue of encouraging more youth to invest in counties rather than concentrate their efforts in Nairobi. I think the Youth Fund can give loans to youth and allow them to invest in their counties, and also waive the taxes. If you can waive the import duty, you can waive the VAT, that will encourage counties and youth to be able to develop.
But you also heard about the 7-year grace period, right?
Well, I don't really support the 7-year grace period. I think, in my view, encourage people to invest in counties. Be specific. If you say 7 years, if we invest in Nairobi, will that help the counties? No. It can't help the counties.
Okay, good point. Dennis Ayoyi says, where is the money to give counties 35%?
Exactly.
This is like parent promising to buy a car for his child if he performs well, yet for sure he knows he can't afford it.
I told you that. I don't see where we're going to get the money.
And yet,
I really do not see where we're going to get the money. Because if you look at Article 2 or 3, which clearly stipulates how money should be divided from the consolidated fund, you tell me, in the last financial year, we could barely raise 316 billion. But now, if you come and tell me that will do away with all these state corporations, the parastatals, and take all that money to counties, then just maybe we might be able to get up to 30%.
Yet governors wanted up to 40, right?
But from where? Where is that money going to come from? Let us be realistic.
Wycliffe Omondi says the BBI report should not have been treated as a, quote, conclusive announcement, rather a document for a conversation directed towards consensus. Let the divergent views be heard so that if we fail as a nation. If we prosper, we all prosper as a nation.
I completely agree.
Good point, Wycliffe. Good point there. More tweets coming in thick and fast. Mohammed Fatuma says, on the contrary, we need strong representation structures at the Senate. Devolution should work and be protected. Thus, both men and women should well represent their counties without disruptions. Okay. One more tweet. Kiadiewa Agedaka says, inclusivity doesn't lie in addition of top administrative posts. It is satisfied by service delivery and empowerment of all Kenyans, irrespective of where they hail from. If only they delivered, he wouldn't care less who's president.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And let me just reiterate this point, and I hope it comes out very clear. There is a reason as to why the preamble of the Constitution starts by saying, we the people. It is not we some people, you know? And when I had one of your guests, I think a couple of days ago, maybe your guest or one of your colleagues' guests, saying that the process of the BBI is closed. We cannot open. Right. Then that makes it we the some people. It should be we the people of Kenya. It should actually include all the 47 million people. And this is the same principle applied by all progressive democracies in this world. You know, in the US, it is we the people. And they feel that there is that ownership. Yeah. But when you try to antagonize certain individuals, where you say that, no, we have no time for you guys, it will take 3 years, then it is we some people, and it's not we the people.
He's talking about the US. Let's end on that note. If you were Trump right now, if you were to advise him, what would you tell him?
Go home. Just tell him go play some golf. Wake up and just say, you know what, I accept Biden has won, goodbye. If you're not willing to give a concession speech, you know. But I'm not worried about that.
Or you worried about violence breaking out in the US?
I'm not worried about that. I think the US have strong institutions that will ensure that there is a smooth transition. I heard that some people were talking about a smooth transition into Trump's second term. Yeah. I don't see that coming. I strongly believe that Biden will make a very good president. I'm very happy with his mature talk. He's not reducing himself to a competition between him and his predecessor. No, he's actually being very objective, being very pragmatic, and saying that I want to unite all the 47, or not the 47, all the 52 states, 50. You know?
Okay, Biden is number 46, right?
Is number 46, yes.
And happy 46th birthday to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well done, Senator.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, and thanks for coming over, man.
Thank you very much.
Sorry to cut into your birthday time. But
no, it was really good. But let me put it this way. Let me actually just give credit to one Speaker Lusaka. You know what Lusaka did yesterday? He went against the ruling of my own tribesmate, Speaker Kaparo. There was a time, I think in 2003, where Kaparo, I think it was like 2003, kicked out Raila Amolo Odinga and a few other people for dressing traditionally in Parliament. So what Lusaka did yesterday was amazing, and I respect him for that.
And you're going to be like this from now on?
Throughout.
No more?
Not only me. In fact, by next week, there'll be more senators coming in.
In traditional?
In traditional.
Look at that.
You know?
Senator Ledama Olekina setting the trend.
Always. We lead, others follows.
Whether it's the afro or
you can see more kids now in Afro.
I know. A trendsetter.
Yes, absolutely.
Happy birthday once again, man.
Thank you, bro.
Remember, if it's Wednesday, it's all about those 3 letters on the keyboard that follow each other. JKL, right here on Citizen Television. Thanks so much for watching. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. Hashtag is JK Live. Thanks so much for watching. Good night. Good luck tomorrow. Stay with Citizen Television for live coverage of the President's State of the Nation address. Good night. Good luck. God bless you all. Happy birthday once again, my brother.